Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're diving into a story today that's got it all. Family drama, tough choices, and consequences that echo through generations.
Mm.
We're in Genesis 25, looking at choices, consequences, and the struggle for blessing, the excerpt you chose for us.
It really is amazing, how these stories, even though they're ancient, still resonate with us today.
They really do.
These themes, family dynamics, faith, the impact of decisions, it's all there in Genesis 25. It's timeless, really.
Okay, so let's jump right in then. We start with Abraham, who, even while starting this new chapter with Keturah and their kids, never loses sight of God's promise about Isaac.
Right.
He even goes so far as to make sure his other sons are taken care of, but, at a distance,
Mm.
It's like he's trying to prevent any potential inheritance drama before it can even begin.
Mhm.
Smart.
Yeah, it really shows how much Abraham understood about legacy.
Definitely.
He's not just thinking about, the immediate future, but generations down the line.
Yeah.
He knows those choices he makes now, even the really hard ones, they'll have a ripple effect.
And talk about difficult choices. Can you imagine having to be in Abraham's shoes? It makes you think about how sometimes honoring the bigger picture means making those tough calls, even when it comes to family.
Absolutely. And speaking of complicated family relationships, we have Isaac and Ishmael, two half-brothers, a history you could write books about, and yet they find this moment of unity when Abraham dies.
Yeah, it's like their shared grief almost bridges the gap between them, even if it's just for a little while.
It is.
And it really gets you thinking, when in our own lives do we need to maybe set aside our differences for something bigger than us?
It's a powerful image, even if it's temporary. This idea of finding common ground, even when there's, deeply ingrained conflict.
For sure. It's a good reminder that we all have those relationships, right? The ones that need a little extra grace and understanding.
Yeah.
Okay, but let's move on now to Isaac's, unwavering faith. We're not talking about a quick prayer here. This is 2 decades of longing before his prayers for a child are answered.
20 years.
It's incredible.
That kind of persistent faith, it really challenges us to think about what we believe and how we live it out.
It does.
Isaac's story isn't just about passively believing. It's about actively engaging with your faith, wrestling with it, never letting go of that hope.
20 years. It makes you think about those times when we give up on something too quickly.
It really does.
Whether it's some personal goal or just something we've been hoping and praying for, Isaac's story is like this powerful reminder to hang in there, to trust the process and believe that things will work out in their own time.
Speaking of things working out in their own time, we have to talk about Rebekah's experience with pregnancy.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about another layer to this whole idea. Not only is it physically difficult, but then there's this prophecy about her sons and their future, and it's not good.
I mean, pregnancy is tough enough on its own. Can you imagine carrying that weight, knowing your children are destined to be at odds? Talk about a lot to process.
And the thing is, God doesn't shy away from revealing how complex this whole situation is.
No, he doesn't.
He tells Rebekah straight up that her sons, they're going to represent 2 different nations, one more powerful than the other. And that right there, that's foreshadowing the conflict that's going to come between them.
It's like she's getting this sneak peek into the future, and it's definitely not all sunshine and roses.
Exactly. It makes you wonder, how do we handle those glimpses of hardship? How do we face the challenges, the uncertainties, knowing that things might get tough down the road?
It really makes you think, we don't always get to see the whole plan, Just like with Rebekah, sometimes all we can do is trust that even if it's tough right now, there's a reason for it.
It's about having faith in that divine timing, trusting that things happen when they're meant to. And that leads us right into the story of the birthright.
Oh, yeah. Here's where the drama really unfolds.
Talk about a turning point for this family.
We've got Esau, totally famished, desperate for food, and he runs into Jacob, who sees this, opportunity.
Right. And we all know this is about way more than just a bowl of soup. Oh, absolutely. This whole scene, it's packed with symbolism. Esau, he's so focused on his immediate hunger that he makes a choice that ends up impacting, generations.
Wow.
He trades away his birthright, his inheritance, all for a quick fix.
It really makes you wonder, haven't we all been there at some point? That pull between what we want right now and what's really best in the long run?
Oh, for sure. That's a struggle we all deal with. And remember, Esau's choice, it was about so much more than just a meal.
Yeah, it was
About leadership, about spiritual inheritance, an entire legacy.
It's crazy to think how much hinged on one decision, one bowl of soup.
It is.
And if we go back to Abraham for a second, it's clear that his commitment to God's covenant with Isaac, that really shaped things for his descendants, didn't it?
Without a doubt. It shows us how choices, even ones made generations ago, can have this ripple effect through time.
They really can.
Both Abraham and Isaac, they were called to lead their families in a way that honored God's promises. It wasn't easy. They faced challenges, made mistakes, but it was their commitment to God's guidance that ultimately shaped who they were.
Yeah.
Their legacy.
It makes you realize that we're all part of something bigger, don't you think? We may not be like negotiating birthrights or anything, but the decisions we make, they're all part of a larger story. It's not just impacting us. It could impact generations to come, and that's kind of wild when you think about it.
It's a call to be mindful, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think so.
To really think about our choices, because they have weight. If something as simple as a bowl of soup can have such a huge impact, imagine what our decisions about relationships, about integrity, about faith, imagine how much those could matter in the grand scheme of things.
It really is like every choice we make is another domino, setting off this chain reaction that impacts everything and everyone around us.
It's true, and we may never even fully grasp just how far-reaching those impacts are.
No, we don't.
And I think that's what makes it so important to really think about the weight of our decisions, even the ones that seem small.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not about being paralyzed by the pressure, like we have to make the perfect choice every time.
Right.
But approaching our decisions with this sense of purpose, being aware of the potential consequences, that's what matters.
It's about making choices that align with what we value most.
Exactly. So as we're wrapping up our look at Genesis 25 here, what are some of the big takeaways? What can we carry with us from this story?
Well, I think we've seen how important it is to really prioritize what truly matters.
Like what Abraham did with God's promise. That was his priority.
Yeah, it was. We see the power of unity, forgiveness, even when there's so much history there.
Just like Isaac and Ishmael.
Right. Even amidst all that conflict, they found a way to come together.
They did. And let's not forget about Esau and Jacob, because their story, I think, really highlights how even seemingly insignificant choices can have these huge ripple effects.
Absolutely. It's a good reminder that even when things are messy, when family dynamics are complicated, we still have a choice.
We always have a choice.
We can choose forgiveness. We can choose faith. We can choose to act according to our values, even when it's hard.
And that's what makes this ancient text so relevant, even thousands of years later.
I agree.
It's like this mirror reflecting the things we all struggle with. Temptation, ambition, wanting to leave something good behind.
Party legacy.
Exactly.
And it makes you wonder, doesn't it? What are we doing today that's shaping our own Genesis 25? Our own legacy.
It's a good question. What stories will be told about the choices we're making?
Those are definitely some things to think about. But on that note, we're going to have to wrap things up for today.
Okay.
Thank you all so much for joining us on this deep dive into Genesis 25. Such a powerful, timeless story.
It really is.
We hope this conversation maybe sparked some reflection, inspired you to think a little differently about the choices you're making each day.
That's what we're here for.
Until next time, everyone.